Ellie, right now. 5, 4, 3, 2.
All right. Doing some tests. Looks like we have volume. I just don't want to cause a feedback loop. Hello to all of those folks out there that might be tuning in or will be tuning in or checking this out later once it's gone live. Thank you for joining the Japanime Games live stream. I'm Jackson. I am sitting outside in what is wonderful Portland, Oregon. Just enjoying the little bit of nice weather we have right now. Trying to stay safe and stay sane, as I'm sure many of you are. I'm just going and rounding up all the questions that got asked on various social media sources today in regards to us streaming and just seeing the things that people might have asked, so we can go through those questions as we get started. But again, thank you so much for joining us. Elizabeth, it is a pleasure. If you have any questions while we are getting rolling, please ask away. And if you notice anything about the audio or otherwise, it's a really stripped down setup today. It's just all a laptop setup, so nothing too fancy. We're just here hanging out, relaxing. Just seeing if anything cropped up since last I checked these messages. Of course, my phone is going to then start blowing up as I say that. Well, let's get those final checks in. What questions do we have? Hello, hello! Thank you for joining us. As I will likely repeat a couple of times, ask your questions throughout. This is our AMA style live stream today, so ask me anything. And my number one rule is I will answer your questions to the best of my ability, and that answer might just be, hey, I can't talk about that right now. So, depending on what the nature of the question is, it just might not be something that gets covered, or we just might not have the answers. But I'll be honest with you, I'll walk through it with you, and I'll tell you kind of what's going on. Our focus today, at least, is to talk about Alternate Souls, which is a new collectible card game from the original creator of Force of Will, Eiji Shishido. We call it an arena card game because it involves acrylic miniatures that you move across a map between you and your opponent, trying to pardon me, either deal with their miniatures or cause certain victory conditions to occur, like making your way across the map or destroying what is their effective king piece or ruler, or as the case it is on the table, the J ruler, similar to what you may be used to with Force of Will in terms of terminology. And so you are going to do that with these acrylic miniatures, and those miniatures are then going to interact with a deck of cards that you put together. And so based on what you want to do, you'll have this deck of cards, and you'll jump into the game, and then you'll actually sideboard beforehand in an interesting sort of mechanism where you will cut down how many cards you actually use throughout the course of the game from your initial pool. So you'll have the opportunity to see what they're playing with, and then sort of pick around that a little bit based on what you brought to the table, and play that way. We're really excited about it. It is going to be coming to Kickstarter in just a short amount of time, next week, 4 days from now on April 14th, next Tuesday. I'll be dropping a link in the chat here as well. Once I get that link. But again, any questions? Oh, Mr. Dead Card Gamer, thank you for asking. I am able to talk about pledges to an extent. I'm not going to go super deep necessarily. We did do an interview the other day with TCG Scrubs that goes into a little bit more depth on those things. I'm going to touch about the same. But I'll start with goals, and then I'll talk about pledges. We have a number of goals in mind. There's going to be a lot of stuff involved with those goals. Part of that being our organized play involvement. So how deep we're actually going to go into organized play will be somewhat tied to the goals in terms of like what our offerings are going to be. But there's going to be organized play. So there's no major concern about that. It's just how much breadth is going to come out of the gate right away. And I think that's one of the most important questions, at least for me, would be, what's that going to look like? So a lot of that's going to be tied into the stretch goals over the long term of it. A bunch of alternate art stuff is going to live in those stretch goals as well. But there's going to be other alternate art stuff that isn't tied to those stretch goals that actually has to do with player choice. So we're going to allow you all to vote on some alternate art options that are going to affect a variety of different things, like standees or card art. So that's more or less, like, without, again, talking about the nitty-gritty specifics involved with what those stretch goals might be. This is what I want. Those are the goals as a whole. And I might give some teasers as we go about what some of those might look like. But again, I don't want to go too deep right now, just because that's another good question, Mr. Dead Card Gamer. That I'll answer in a moment after I answer the pledge levels. And so our initial offering is going to be 3 different pledge levels to start, where the first pledge level is going to be $60. It's going to get you 2 starters for the game. So you and a friend will be able to play against one another that way. The next tier above that is going to get you some other goodies. So you're going to get some boosters on top of that, because again, it is a collectible card game. So you get some boosters, you're going to get some other fun stuff, like some extra standees that you might not be able to get otherwise. And then the top tier, at least for now, of those 3 tiers, is going to get you even more goodies. And each tier kind of jumps up in a way that gets you a better discount overall in terms of value. In terms of how similar it is, it's a little bit harder to say in those capacities, because it isn't a card game in the same fashion that Force of Will is. And I have on the display right now, actually, to just kind of use that as a segue, one of the J rulers that's going to be in the starters, which is 0. And so the flip side of that is actually the card, the ruler side, which shows you how your miniatures set up on the board to start. So it's kind of your placement and dictates like what your hand size is, how many points you get to spend on your linkers, which are the other characters that you get to use, and it has some other information on it for synergy purposes. And then when it flips, because the J ruler doesn't actually start in the game. It shows up partway through based on its own rulings. It comes onto the board and becomes an actual piece partway through the game and does something when it does that. But mechanically, in terms of like getting resources to do things, you have a sliding energy bar that kind of goes up and down as you spend on cards, and cards will interact with characters based on what their subtypes are. So 0 is a light character, and so those 5 elements still exist, or those 5 attributes still exist in the game, but they are interacted with differently than, at least my understanding of Force of Will as a game. It has been a while since I've played, so I don't know if anything has dramatically changed. I'm just going to get the link to that Kickstarter page and drop that in the chat. But if anybody else has questions, again, like we are focusing primarily on alternate souls, but if you have any questions about other things, other games that we do, other things of that nature, we're happy to talk about that as well. You know, you've got me for at least another 35 minutes, and I want to fill your time with interesting information based on what I actually can talk about right now versus what else might be out there. So, ask your questions. I know there's not a whole lot of you, but again, the more questions you ask, the more I can talk about stuff, and the more I can hopefully keep you entertained. What other important things are there? In talking with Colin at TCG Scrubs the other day, we talked about some of the special goodies that are going to come out of this as well. There are going to be a number of pledge options that are one of a kind, similar to what you might see with some other stuff, where just whoever gets it, and there'll be no others of those ever made ever again. There will be tutorials and some gameplay video and otherwise up when we go live on the 14th. So at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, because we are primarily on the West Coast, so we tend to operate on those times, especially because it catches the East Coast a little bit more easily, and while it isn't the most internationally friendly time zone, it gets a good swath of things. So, hey Steven, thanks for asking your questions. Yeah, to finish that up, like, there will be more videos up for it. We have another video likely going out later today, if not over the weekend, that just is getting cleaned up right now. It isn't gameplay so much, but it gives a general scope of things. And as I had mentioned earlier in the stream, as far as stretch goals go, for the overall part of it, I can't go too deep into them, but there will be a variety of alternate art options. The exact breadth of organized play that we get into will be based on that level of commitment overall. We think that our general goal is reasonable, especially given the actual production costs of this product. There is an intent for nice playmats for the game, especially because the goal is actually to have 2 different maps to start from, opposed to the one that originally was discussed. So we're actually hopeful to add a second map, and that has nothing to do with stretch goals. That just has to do with seeing what we can actually accomplish in time. As for 3D terrain, there hasn't been any discussion about it, but I think that's a really cool idea. As it stands right now, the terrain features on the map more have to do just with can a model move through it or not, or if it does something to it, but I think that's a neat idea. So thank you for asking that question. The reason for making it a collectible card game is just this is AG's game. This is his vision as the original creator of Force of Will. That's what he likes to do. That's his concept. But from what I've been told, in that regard at least, it has a very similar mentality to Force of Will mentality in that you really shouldn't have to invest overly invest to get the things that you're looking for. And unlike other card games, you don't need 4 of a copy. So that is another incentive of when you've got your copies of things, you don't have to keep hunting for more and more copies of that thing. So hopefully that helps there. Hey Keith, welcome in. I have not actually played Unmatched from those companies mentioned. But I will take a look at it while we're talking right now, or if you have a link for me, that would make it a little bit easier. But it's definitely something that I might be able to give a better insight on if I actually knew what that item was. Elizabeth, that is a very good question as well in regards to production. Production is variable. Any project is going to be dependent on components and complexity of said components. But we are no newbies to production, let alone Kickstarter. You know, we've done a number of Kickstarters before. We just finished one for another game called Testament a little bit ago. And so that one's in production now. The role-playing game Besom has been in production for a while. We try to have pretty good turnarounds in those regards, especially just because of who we are. But right now, given the state of the world, everything is slower. Production is definitely slowed down. Shipping has slowed down. On our particular side of things, our warehouse had to close for a little while because of an Indiana shelter-in-place order. That's opened up, so at least we're getting things moving again, but that's been a hindrance in regards to actually pushing product. But to fully answer your question, there is no one answer for how long production costs. Our goal is to get this out relatively quickly after the Kickstarter is done. It's probably going to be one of our quickest deliveries in that regard. So that's the plan there. Steven, I don't know if there's any plans to have it be a team battle or a 2v2 style game. Just in terms of where we're at right now, that hasn't been something that I've been privy to. But that doesn't mean that it isn't in the works. I could just tell you right now it hasn't been talked about in a capacity that I've been involved with. I think it would be cool. There's a lot of things I think would be cool. But I'm just a guy who talks and hopefully answers questions and does a bunch of other goofy stuff marketing-wise. So, as to how we plan to incentivize card shops to order and support the game, that one's always a tough question. And right now, at least in being transparent, I don't know what any answer could be for that regard. So many stores have been having to shut their doors. They don't have their play spaces. They can't make orders because they can't sell product necessarily. They don't have the infrastructure to keep doing business in this time. And I'm sure a number of you have been experiencing that in your own communities. You know, like, you may not know anything about me, but before I got into the publishing side of things, I was a retail owner in Colorado. It's part of what got me into the industry. I feel awful for everybody who's dealing with it. But that not answering the question, our goal is to incentivize it through organized play specifically. So we plan to do a number of promos that can only be acquired through actually participating at, you know, your local game store and playing the game there or playing in some capacity there. So items that if you don't go out or have somebody who can put something together, even gaming clubs, then you might not be able to get access to those things. And that's kind of the Friday Night Magic style of, here's the stuff we're going to support you with. Here's what we're going to do for you. And we hope that that, in turn, then gets the customers to create the demand for the store owner to then want to carry it. And we think part of that is going to come from the Souls system component to it, which you may not have seen the press release that came out with it, because, again, information, there's so much information out there these days, and as much as we try to get it in front of you, you may not see it. There's just nothing, like, we're going to do our best. But the Soul system is going to be a database that goes along with this product. Every booster and every starter is going to come with a QR code. Starters come with 4. One for each character. Let's get a bug on my end. Each character involved in the starter deck. And they will go into an online database. You'll collect those things. But every QR code is going to get you 2 things in the long run. The first thing is that it will get you progress towards what we call the Ultimate Soul, which is every cycle. So anytime we decide that we're going to release something new or have a set schedule for it, the person who has the most of a particular character via those QR codes is going to get a one-of-a-kind alternate art version of that character. No one else will ever have it. It's not for anybody. It's just theirs. So that's a cool little incentive. The other part is every entry also gets you a raffle ticket, effectively, to go to Japan to participate in the Festival of Ultimate Souls, which is going to be like a party that might have a tournament attached to it. So it's kind of the big thing there. For Keith, do I have a favorite card included in this project? If so, what can you tell us about this project? Yeah, I'll kind of rehash all of the things that I did. Again, it is an arena-style collectible card game. Call it an ACG or arena card game. You have your ruler, which determines how many points you get to spend on linkers and a bunch of other stuff. It tells you how you set up your characters, the linkers being the other characters you get access to that aren't your ruler. Think of the ruler similar to if you've ever played or seen War Machine and Hordes from Privateer Press, or other games of that nature, kind of your king piece, or your the leader of your group. And if you lose them through the course of the game, then you will lose the game. That's one of the ways you can lose. But you'll have these characters, you're going to be moving them across this board, and then you'll have a deck of cards. It actually starts with 30 cards. And then when you see who you're playing against, you actually cut that 30 down to 20. So you get a pre-sideboard, effectively, out of what you have to kind of play with. And then you play. As far as favorite cards go, I want to say yes, but I can't talk about it right now, mostly because we will be revealing it later in the campaign, so you'll get to see it. It is a ruler. It just fits my aesthetic really well. It is a fire ruler that has yet to be spoiled in any way. So I'll give you that much. Like, there's going to be 10 different rulers to start with. 5 of which are going to be in the starters. So, I don't know if there's a plan for an online component to it, but it is something that has been discussed. I think, especially now, it would be something that is on our radars. Just everything is changing so much from day to day, it makes it a little bit harder to keep up. Even we as a company, we have one digital offering, which is Heart of Crown, and we try to do streams of it, but right now I'm so focused on making this a reality that I can't even do those streams right now. So I would love for it to have the online component, and I would expect that it's something we'll look at. But there is that soul system, which is going to be a companion-style thing to it. It's not quite what you're asking about, but it's in that family. Steven, do I know if this game will be working with alternate reality gaming? I don't know who that is. as a company, but I'm going to look them up right now as I fill it with dead air. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's something we're going to be working with, but if you want to tell me more about it, it's not like the more I know and the more avenues I have to expand upon and roads to go down, the more I can do on my side. Make sure I'm not like sliding in a weird spot as I'm chilling out here. And we're going to do more just as I'm filling the time, so you're not just sitting here looking at me with nothing going on other than this very nice day in our backyard. What was I going to say? On Monday at, I want to say at the same time. I want to say it's 4 p.m., but I will know for sure when I get a response. We're going to do another thing. It's not Monday. Monday I'm doing a live stream with Jeremy on their podcast, which I've been told nothing about, which is always my favorite way to walk into a podcast. It's completely unprepared because it requires me to do basically what I'm doing now, which is just kind of rolling off the cuff. I have the general knowledge of the things I'm supposed to know, and then I just gotta work through it from them. On Tuesday at 4 p.m., we're going to be doing another live stream similar to this. So the Kickstarter will have gone live that day at 9 in the morning. And then 7 hours later, so towards the end of the workday, it'll be late for the East Coast. But around 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we'll be doing another live stream like this with the president of my company, Eric. Likely also Jeff from Will Studio. And Eiji Shishido. Because that is their like 8 o'clock in the morning back in Japan. 8 o'clock Wednesday morning in Japan. But that way we can get Jeff and Eiji from Will Studio, which is their new studio for producing games. And so we'll do another thing like this with them. How would promos and prizes look if there are any? So a lot of that right now is coming down to alternate art style things. So a lot of the promos right now are going to be getting a standee that has alternate art for the character, getting alternate art for cards, getting fancy versions of cards. Our goal isn't to add anything into the game that you couldn't get any other way for mechanical purposes. So we want to keep the game balanced and fair. So we don't want anything to be available to a limited group of people or otherwise that then affects the course of the game. Anything promo-wise is going to be aesthetic. And so that might be in the form of playmats or card sleeves. Thank you for elaborating on that, Stephen. If they have worked with them in the past, then there is a good chance that it will be something that gets worked with again. I can't speak for them. I can only speak to the Japanime Games component to it and what I know of it. And so as a publisher and working on the distribution aspect of this project, the mechanical part of it is all Will Studio. While we do have conversations about what may work best overall for the market, especially because they are looking to, again, expand to the same level of translations, which I believe is 7 languages, as Force of Will currently has, and try to get a good footprint in North America before really, really expanding. North America and Europe being the 2 saturation points outside of Japan. I don't know what their overall goals are, but I would suspect if there are things that they did in the past that they enjoyed doing, they will probably work with them again. I'm also so grateful for all of you asking questions that I don't have to just say I can't talk about that. So that makes me feel good that I don't have to shut you down Just be like, cool, we're not going to talk about that thing. Sorry. Trying to think of stuff that's cool to fill the time with this. Let's see. You want to put something else up? Alright, so we got this picture of Zero, like I said. Let's just change that. Let's throw up Gil. So throwing up another ruler, we've got Gil Lapis. So again, AG owns the rights to the art. And so all of these characters that you may be familiar with from Force of Will are in this new world, battling it out once more to become the ultimate soul, as it's put. And that's kind of why we lean on that ultimate soul idea of things. But Gil is the Dark Ruler, or Darkness Ruler. As you can see on there, like, Gil gets 6 cards in their hand opposed to the standard 5 or 4 that other rulers might have. Each one is variable, so part of your gameplay is going to be played around what your ruler brings to the table. And so they have their attack and defense values for when they're dealing with other miniatures. And then they have their own special rules. Roxanne, welcome. Ooh, that's a good question, Stephen. I don't know the exact order of who talked to who first, but I do know that we had many hours worth of conversations to figure out if this was a project we were going to take on, what that project might look like, and what the long-term goal for it was. And a lot of that comes from, at least Japanime's perspective of wanting to bring games from Japan to a wider audience, or just anime-style games in general. Like, those are kind of our two pivots that we tend to make when dealing with a game or not. So, to kind of go on a bit of a tangent, like Love Battle High School, one of our other games was a game that was designed in-house with an anime theme in mind, and so that's why, like, part of why we took that project on. But again, it depends, but our overall goal is to make sure that we're creating good games, and we're making games that we feel have long-term potential. And so this is one of those games that we said, yes, we're gonna dive into this and really do what we can with it. And so, kind of circling back to your question, to elaborate more, many hours were spent having that back and forth on, is this a project we're actually going to do? And we finally decided yes. That was at Gamma. Like, not that the yes was that, but like the final sort of like, all right, here's how we're going to do this sort of thing. And so it'd been in works for a while, and now here we are, 4 days away from actually launching the Kickstarter to make this thing a reality. While waiting for some more questions, again, ask away. Ask anything you would like. You can ask me what my favorite ice cream is, or again, just keep focusing on alternate souls, because that's what we're here for. But you can ask whatever. The thing that I have on the display right now of Gil, as I had of Zero, is also one of the offerings that's going to be in the Kickstarter. You are going to be able to get one-of-a-kind metal plates of these characters that are two-sided, so they are actual, like, giant cards that are one-of-a-kind metal plates that say first founder of whatever, and they're all one of a kind. So there's one for Zero, there's one for Gil, there's one for Kaguya, Failsing? I'm terrible at pronouncing the name. And Gnarly Hotep. Like, those 5 are all going to have one-of-a-kind plates. How long does the game last? It's about standard card game length of time, so you're looking anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour, depending on how fast your opponent is playing and what's going on. And other factors, how many rounds you're playing overall. But it's usually in that, like, 20-30 minute range for the game, especially if both people know what they're doing and they're good players. And going through, I definitely did just give a teaser on that we're going to be doing plates. I didn't necessarily tease what the art was for those plates, but I did say what the art's going to be of. Those pledges are going to be on the upper end of things, so you're looking at a pretty high price tag for those ones. And we'll probably talk about those. We might talk about those more at the end of the stream or otherwise. We'll see where we're at. I don't think yet there is a good answer for that. But thank you for asking, Dragon Master. Gil's pretty cool. Gil's one of my favorites. Gil's not my favorite. My favorite hasn't been revealed yet. Alright, Stephen. Will the starter decks all adhere to a specific attribute? They will. So each one of the 5 starters will all be of that type. And so we have light, darkness, fire, water, and air, which you should all be familiar with if I'm not losing my mind, which I could be. As for NetGAN, will there be official options for sorting the acrylic standees? There are not anything currently planned in that capacity, but that is a really good idea, and I'm just going to put that in my notes, because I am really surprised that has never come up yet, at least when I've been around. Yeah, the Gil one's cool. Silver Liu, sorry for the late. Be late, that's okay. Is this like prior deck building sets, or is this more? So it is a collectible card game or a trading card game. So you will have the 5 starters, and then there will be boosters, and those boosters will have more linkers and rulers available in them. With that, boosters are going to be a bit more expensive than what you might be used to from a Magic booster or Pokemon booster, and part of that is because you are getting that really nice acrylic standee that is going to be in that pack, in addition to the cards that would be associated with the character that is in that pack. So you're going to get that. Yeah, there's a lot of options out there, like the Hex Commander deck boxes. Dex Protection offers a number of nice deck boxes. It has not been asked when the expected release date is going to be for the game post-Kickstarter, specifically. That's not something I can give an answer to, mostly because, again, as we talked about early on in the stream, production right now is impossible to pin down. So, things are busy. Production may be backed up because of everything that's going on. I know shipping is. Yeah, no, again, my number one rule, whenever I do anything like this, so if ever you tune into something that I'm on, number one rule is I will answer your question. And that answer might just be, hey, I can't talk about that. Because sometimes I can't. But I'll at least be transparent with you to say, hey, that's not something we can talk about right now. And if I can give the reason why we can't talk about it, I will give you the reason why. But I'm going to give you as much information as I can based on where we're at with things or what we actually can talk about. Mostly because I also don't want to be misquoted in the future and then be like, oh man, I didn't say that the way I should have said it. Here's what we actually meant. And then you get upset because it isn't what you thought it was going to be. So I want to frame your expectations and I want to actually be honest with you. As far as I know, there is no rarity system because, again, you're not looking for playsets of cards. Talking about the anatomy of a booster, you're going to get that character. The character is going to come with cards that are associated with that character. But again, you don't have to use those cards specifically for that character. You say it's Community Connection 101, but not everybody does it. There's a lot of people who are going to throw a lot of smoke around. And so that's why even when I get on a tangent, I want to cycle back. But yeah, so you're going to get those cards with that character. You don't have to use those cards specifically with that character. Once you actually get to see how the game works, you might have a card for, say, Sylvia, and that card says something along the lines of move in this particular way or do damage in this way, and then you'll be able to potentially play it on characters of an associated attribute, or because they're linkers, you might pay part of your energy cost or your resources that you got for that turn to be able to play that card. And so you're going to get that versatility of getting cards from other characters that you may not necessarily be using. But the reason I say that I don't believe there is a rarity system is, again, because the card pool is much more limited than you might expect from a traditional TCG. On top of that, it's not like you are getting a Magic booster pack where you're getting those different slots that are being filled. Again, it's associated with the character that's in that booster. And our goal, to talk about that a little bit more, is to... I say goal because we don't know for sure if this is going to be doable, but we think it can be, at least based on what we've talked about with production, is that if you buy a booster box, for example, there will not be repeats of characters in that box. Assumedly. And we want to do that to adhere more to the if you buy 3 boxes, which I believe is one of AG's philosophies originally. If you buy 3 boxes, you'll have the things you need to play. You'll have it all. You'll have your set. So that's kind of the philosophy there, is a little bit of that. If that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. Ask questions. I mean, I never went to school. I did and I didn't. There's a whole, you don't need to know my backstory. I did some school stuff. I did a lot of not school stuff. I've been doing the work side of things for a long time. The starters are going to come with 4 characters each. I'm going to go into that anyway. So you're going to get your ruler plus 3 other characters. And so that's going to get you started. And so that amounts to 20 characters in the starters altogether, because 5 starters, 4 per. And then there are 25 characters in the first set. 5 of which... I want to say 5, but it could be 10. I'm going to go with 5 to be safe, and then if there's more, that'll be cool, but I think it's 5. 5 other rulers, 1 for each element or attribute. So with the first set, you should have 10 different rulers with which to make decks out of, or make a set of characters out of to play with. Oh, popping my body. You're very welcome. And we got those options. We want to, again, make the game interesting and exciting. We've had a ton of fun with it. It's been enjoyable to play. Really excited to see what it goes. Let's see here. I'm gonna swap up a little bit of the art, give you all a little bit of cycles through things. So we just had Gil. Let's do Kaguya. Is that Kaguya? Yeah. Let's do Kaguya. So swapping out art. Now we've got Kaguya up on the screen, showing off a little bit of Kaguya. So again, you can see these differences in stats that we've talked about. Gil had much higher defense, but a similar amount of attack. Kaguya only has 4 cards in their hand at a time, opposed to the 6 that Gil had or the 5 that Zero has. And you also see on that there's a special ability which says ally spells gain right turn of 1. So that gives them a little bit more movement options. They're going to be fluid like water, which is kind of cool. I do not know if there are going to be exclusive gacha cards located in packs. We do know that, again, as I said, like a lot of the promos are going to have alternate art options. And I'm sure if this takes off, that AG is going to want to do a lot of those cool things that he did before. And I am a sucker for really cool stuff. I know it's going to be tight on a lot of these things. Again, we talked about the plates briefly, which are going to be one-of-a-kind items. We're going to do 10 of those, as far as I know. So those are going to be exciting. But outside of like all the alternate art stuff to start and all the support alternate art stuff, I don't think anything is planned for at least the initial launch to have those specialty things added right away. Because our goal, again, is to have the gameplay be the focus. While we love the art, we want to have all these cool other things going on with it. We want people to feel good with their purchases and say, hey, like, I really invested in this. I feel good about this. I'm really excited with what I have to be playing this game. If you see my face, it's just because there's weird noises coming from nearby. I decided to sit outside, as I said, and enjoy the weather. What else is important? Recording this as well, so this will go up for other people later. So, of course, if you didn't get to be here, for those that are listening to this in the future, when I've posted it elsewhere, some game. Let's see here. Did you ever consider changing materials to match the price point of other games? The plastic card at a higher cost to the consumer isn't new, and those games had mechanical reasons for the materials. That's outside of what I'm able to talk about accurately, just because, again, I wasn't there for the development of the game. We went with acrylic standees, as far as I know, to actually help keep costs down compared to other options. So that's part of the reason there. And I think our price point in the long term is reasonable. Again, you're getting starter deck wise, you're getting a $30 starter with these high quality acrylic standees, in addition to all of the cards and not a playmat, but like an actual game board and some other components for $30, which is equivalent to a lot of card games. So in that regard, you might actually be getting more out of this product than you might otherwise. But as far as changing materials, I don't know the exact reasons why they decided to go the routes they did overall. I know that doesn't answer your question in the most elaborate fashion, but that's about what I could reasonably talk about without hurting ourselves in the future by misquoting this, and also just because I don't have all that information. I have a decent amount of information, but I don't have everything. And part of that's because just it's not for me to have been in those meetings. But if you feel like that didn't accurately answer your question, I do apologize again. Going through these questions. The Kickstarter is not up now. I'm just going to kind of work backwards a little bit. The Kickstarter will be up in 4 days. It is going to go live at 9 in the morning Pacific Standard Time, which is where I am at, out in Portland, Oregon. I'm going to drop another link to the Kickstarter right now, but there might be a little bit of a delay because of talking. Is this localization or new develop? It's a new product. I know AJ and his team have been working on that for a while. So I don't believe they have a full-on product in Japan right now. But there is that. There will be the specific character, and those cards are always going to be the same per pack. It is 5 cards per pack, if memory serves correctly. And again, you're building a deck out of 30 cards that you trim down to 20 for actual gameplay. So each time you get a booster, you're getting the potential to add a 1/6 of your deck if those cards are appealing to your particular playstyle. And in that same capacity, you might see completely different decks when you see the same ruler, because they're not necessarily going to include the same cards. And so that's always exciting as well. The packs, we're doing something a little bit different. They're not going to be in foil like you might be used to with Pokemon or Transformers or Magic or anything like that. There's actually a really cool packaging style that AG found in Japan for other products that we're really excited to try out with this initial launch. And again, please, Alpha, if you have questions, like, ask them. I don't mind rehashing things. That's part of why it's a live stream AMA. We're just hanging out for a bit, having a good time. I think they're really cool. I wish I had some on me to actually show them off. If I did, that would be one of the things I'd be like, hey, check this out. It's really neat. But I don't, because our prototype for it is elsewhere. And shipping things is really hard right now. But there's a lot of cool prototypes. Let's see here. Let's cycle Kaguya out too, just because we've been going through some things. So we had Kaguya, had Zero, Sing. Bring them up on the screen. And of course, as you can see on the cards, like, they have their set names, as we talked about. They have their attribute over next to their name and their J ruler status, in terms of their hand size, what their attack and defense values are. All that good stuff. Yeah, go ahead and ask some more questions. We'll hang out for a little while longer. If the questions keep slowing down like they are, because there's only a few of you actually watching, which is okay. We will sort of start wrapping things up. And again, I'll go through your questions as best I can. The other things, again, keep in mind, we'll be posting about these. So if you don't follow us on social media, you can follow My Will Studio. which I will put links to both of these things in the chat when I get there, or you can find Japanime Games on Facebook. Otherwise, we're Japanime Games on Twitter and Instagram, all those good things. We post about all this stuff all the time. You can follow us. You can keep up to date with all of these things. We're entering into a really heavy marketing cycle, because again, we've had about a week to get things rolling just because of how things got pushed back and all that fun stuff. And so now we're getting ready to launch in a few days. The starter deck comes with 1 ruler and 3 linkers, so it'll be 4 characters all together. If you want to have access to other characters, you will want to buy other decks or other boosters as well to get more of those characters. You can only use one of a particular linker as far as I am aware. I don't think that's changed. So having that one character, but again, that's where the incentive of, if you get a booster pack that has the same character that you already had, that's okay, because you're going to get that QR code to go onto the Soul system and input that. And then if you have the most of that character, say Alice, when it comes up for the cycle, if you're the person who has the most, you're going to get an alternate version of that card and that character. That's just yours. No one else is going to have it. It's what we call the Ultimate Soul, and so that thing is unique for you. Is there going to be a site for lore? There should be. I'm saying that because that's, if they don't have that set up, no, you could expect the kind of full tree. I'm just making jokes on that one. Like, this is a game we plan to support. It isn't just a, it's actually something we're really excited about, we want to make happen, and we want all of you to be able to experience. Again, it's a very small amount of you right now. It's not like I'm talking to hundreds of thousands of people, but 10 of you, 13 of you, 15 of you, 20 of you, however many there might be at any given time. You're giving your time to me right now. And so the least I could do is answer your questions and actually have a good time with you. Just clicking through stuff. Never did get that link to that other game that was mentioned. It said link, but the link never showed up, so I don't know why. Show me the thing. Show me the thing. I think they are different from what I'm seeing of it. That doesn't mean much. That is a good question, Stephen. I actually don't know the answer to that. At least initially, a character is only one thing or another thing. So in the initial set, you will not see a character as both a ruler or a linker. There is lore. I know that there is lore to it, mostly because we actually have videos pertaining to the lore, and you're going to actually get to see those as the campaign goes on. So every day, for the first 5 days of the campaign, we're going to have a player's choice vote. And so you're going to get to vote on alternate art for a variety of different options. Oh, sorry. As I sound like, oh, Steve, I'm sad for you now, too. I don't want that. Again, I'm not in charge of that thing. I don't know what the long term of it is. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility. So in taking a step back, before I came to Japanime Games, I actually did marketing for Privateer Press a number of years back. And something that I really like about that is the uniqueness of characters, in the sense of you can have your warcaster or your leader or a character, even just a character model. So for this example, let's say we'll just use 0 as the example, and 0 would be labeled as 0, 1. And what that meant is that was the first iteration of 0, and no other character with that classification can be in your set of models. So you couldn't have 0, 2, or 0, 3, 1 because they might occupy the same slot, or 2, they don't. But something cool that they've been doing lately is characters that you may have known that were like these big characters now aren't necessarily filling that role for your army, and they did become more like the linker status of a character. And so I think it would be cool to do that, and that's why I said, I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't take it off the table. And then, so cycling back to the lore aspect, we just got a video finished and polished a little bit ago that likely is going to go up this weekend that you'll get to see. And it's got a little bit of lore in it. It's got some great visuals of prototypes and other things that are coming with this. And then every day of the campaign, as I said, there's going to be a video pertaining to a particular character that we're going to do player's choice voting on. And so you'll get to choose art for that character, and your actual votes will be a deciding factor on what that looks like forever. Which, at least for me, I think that's always a cool aspect to a campaign, to be like, oh yeah, I helped pick the art for this character. I got to say that this is what that character is going to look like forever. Or, you know, a playmat or whatever else might be associated with that. International distribution and pricing is always difficult. We are working with partners to figure that out. I can't give you hard and fast numbers on that because every country has its own shipping requirements to some extent, which makes things difficult. But you'll, at least for the Kickstarter part of it, be able to get an idea of what that looks like when it goes live. And it's very, if you've done a Kickstarter with us before specifically, it'll look pretty similar. I just used War Machine as an example because they do a lot of interesting things, and because there's a little bit of like the miniatures component to this game, it's a good analogy of you've got your king piece, like that is a unique piece, you can't have a second one of it, and so that's always helpful. I'm over here looking at work emails as well. But yeah, again, there's like, it's very much got miniatures, it's got stuff going on, but it's very self-contained, and it doesn't, you don't need a 3-foot or a 4-foot table to play. And so that's something that I'm looking forward to it. I have way too many miniatures that take up way too much space. But I also love painting, so that's its own little thing there. Well, let's take a few more questions. Let's see what people are feeling and thinking about, and what's on their minds, and we'll roll through a couple of those, and then we'll start wrapping up. But thank you again. Thank all of you so much for joining us. Again, we're going to have 2 more sets of things. So Jeremy, who is partnered with them, Jeremy Franklin, he does a podcast on Monday. I'm going to be going on that podcast with them on Monday. It's also done live, so that's very exciting. Dimensions of the Game Board. I might actually have that. Let me see if I do. And if I do, I will give you that information. There. We'll go ahead and ask other questions while I'm digging that up. I don't think I can give you the size of each square. I don't know what that is off the top. I'm not that good. Plates are heavy. Board. Come here, board. come to me. Looks like I don't have that in front of me. The original cards. So yeah, I don't have the dimensions, I'm sorry. I thought I might have them somewhere, but I do not. But it's like playmat size. Realistically, a little bit bigger than a playmat. So you can be looking at those general dimensions. I have. Like, it's similar in size to this. It might be a bit bigger, but it's going to be in that same size. As you look at that messy mouse pad there. Card sizes. There are things that are outside of the standard, like the plates and otherwise, but the regular cards were magic card size, if memory serves. So they're going to be in that capacity. Which, of course, me putting that up means nothing to you, because you don't know how big my hands are. That doesn't help you. We're trying to work with established norms and make sure it's not like, hey, you know those other card sleeves you have? Not going to work. Too bad. It's not going to do anything for it, yeah. Alright. Let's take a couple more questions, and then we'll start truly wrapping this up. Give me those meaty questions. What do you really want to know about? What's important to you? What's the thing that's making you nervous? There will be card sleeves. So one of the things that you're gonna see is special art sleeves specific to this game. We're also going to be producing mats, as we said. The starters are going to come with a foldable one, but if you want like a nice one, a nice like really high quality one, we're going to have those options as well. Yeah. What are the things though that are making you nervous, so that I can hopefully answer those? I might not be able to, and that might make you more nervous, but give it a little bit of time to answer those questions. And our goal is to limit the limited print items. So again, there are going to be items that are part of the Kickstarter that you will not be able to get otherwise. So if you don't participate in the Kickstarter, you will have missed your opportunity to get them unless you look at secondary markets, because nothing we can do about that. But we are making it so that no matter what you want, no matter how you want to pledge to the game, you're going to be able to get your hands on those limited options. As for sleeves, otherwise, like, our intent is to make evergreen products. So it was going once, it was going twice. For that final bid, do we have another set of questions? And again, if there are items that are limited to the Kickstarter, which will be very apparent, we're not going to put something in the Kickstarter without saying, you can't get this. They will not have gameplay mechanics. Again, we don't want to have anything like that. So we don't want to make it so that if you didn't get in, you're not going to be able to have that super good card or that super good character. That just defeats the purpose. It'll be alternate art or alternate option kind of items. But again, we will make it very apparent, hey, this is a Kickstarter only item. If you do not back this Kickstarter, you will not get this item. If we don't say that, then going otherwise. So hopefully that answers those. Player base is always something to be concerned about. Any kind of collectible card game in general these days is always, it's in a difficult place because there's those juggernauts that exist, and so cutting a new part of the market is always difficult, and we saw a lot of it over the years. Hiring ambassadors, not so much. We do have what's called Team Japanime, which is a program for getting people in touch with stores to do those kinds of things. Right now, we've actually put Team Japanime a little bit more on the backside because stores can't have people in them, and it feels really insensitive to have that component to it. And so we're looking at options in general. And right now, we want to get retailers involved, but we're actually focusing. Retailers will have options for this Kickstarter, but we're focusing on how do we get it into your hands. I will say who the link code is in the Water and Darkness decks, so they have to wait for the Kickstarter. I don't have the list of who's specifically in them myself. I know. Yeah, there's not repeat boosters, so you're not looking to get crazy amounts of a single card for playsets or otherwise, which is the nice part of it. Going back to the decks, I don't have the list in front of me. I just have what I saw from the Fire and Light starters that got prototype copies. So I know about Sylvia, I know about Gnarly Hotep, I know about Zero, the panda whose name escapes me, who's real shiny and dope. I know about Alice. So, again, there's characters I do know about, but I don't know 100% who the link cutters are going to be in the Water and Darkness set. You've been asking a ton of good questions, and I feel so bad that I don't have the answers for you. Just because. Yeah, Tigurius or something like that. Again, I just know them from having seen them and played with them a number of times, and now I don't even have prototypes in front of me. But we want to make it accessible. We want to make it so that there's a lot of longevity to it and reasons to participate. And so, again, a lot of those promos are going to come from actually participating in organized play once the world is ready for that stuff again. Because, again, we're kind of in a place where social distancing is very important. Our company is grateful that we are primarily remote. We just got to reopen our warehouse again because Indiana changed how things work, which is nice. So we're going to be getting those shipments that have been sitting around back out there. But my boss and I, Eric, the owner of the company, we live 15 minutes apart. I don't even go see him because it would be irresponsible to do so. So even when we do our stream next week, we're not even going to be in the same room. We're going to be in other places. But, again, follow us on social media. So, Facebook, following Japanime Facebook is probably the best place. But we're also going to be posting Will Studios. And if you're part of the Alternate Souls Facebook group, that's a great place too, because we post in there. We're going to talk about stuff in there. And that's probably where you're going to see a lot of spoilers. So, nearing the end for today, but I've appreciated everybody's interest and everybody hanging out. I'm going to take one more good question. So give me a couple of questions. Give it a few minutes, but we'll take a couple of questions and then we'll wrap things up. And in doing that, I'm going to cycle to the last of the ruler cards. And the name has changed since it was originally. This is going to be a card of Scarlet, who has become Gnarly Hotep. But it was Scarlet the Crimson Beast. It's now Gnarly Hotep. So this art is outdated. But again, showing off the different hand sizes, different attack and defense values, species types, other fun stuff that you might see on those cards. As I said, I did not give the dimensions of the game board. Because I don't actually have those dimensions in front of me. It's going to be similar to a standard playmat size. Mat. It might end up being a little bit bigger because of the the trackers that you're going to need for your two sides. Because you're going to have your energy tracker for like what you can actually spend resources on a given turn, and you actually have a track for your miniatures. Because if they make it across the field, or if they die, based on what their cost was, they actually go back to that board and will come back out later. So they have this sort of cycle of turns that they have to recuperate before they come back onto the board to be used again. But again, I don't have the exact dimensions. I don't think it's on here, but I'm going to find out. A lot of digging for stuff. Get in there. Asking me questions that I'm not prepared for is the best way to get me to look for things. Because it's super helpful. Come here, map. What is your size? That's not there either. Oh, there it is. It is approximately 14 inches by 24 inches. So, a foot and some change versus 2 feet. I do have that. So, a bit bigger. I guess it's bigger than the standard play mat. It's a little longer. Alright, let's see here. Testing. The plan is to put a good amount of playtesting into the actual assets that will be released. Again, we want to make sure the balance is preserved, and we don't want to introduce items, as I mentioned, even just the what people could call pay-to-win items. I'm just like, oh, you didn't go to that convention, you didn't get that card, well, I guess you can't play anymore. We don't want any of that. We don't want to deal with that. We want to make sure that if you spent the time playing the game and you are a good player, that you will have the same kind of opportunity that somebody else might. So, this is where we're going to wrap up the stream. But again, thank you so much. I will just repeat one more time just because of the nature of live streams. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all Japanime Games. There's also Will Studios, and I'll get those into this video once we have posted to get those links in there as well, so you'll be able to come back and find those links. Will Studio, Alternate Souls Facebook group. Hop in those, reach out to us, ask us questions. Ask us questions there. Join us on Monday for the podcast. Join us on Tuesday for the Kickstarter going live at 9 in the morning, so 9 PST. And then join us that evening, so 4 p.m. PST, same time we started today. We're going to be doing a stream with myself, Eric, AG, and likely Jeremy, who's been doing a lot of stuff with us. And if not Jeremy, it's Jeff. I always get their names backwards. It should be Jeff. So Jeff and AG out in Japan. And so we'll be doing even more stuff then. We're going to do a ton of community-oriented stuff to keep you involved throughout the process. Something else to keep in mind with our Kickstarters, we actually do shorter Kickstarters, so we don't do a full 30-day Kickstarter. And so if it's something that you want to pledge to, hop in on it. there's a lot of things that we as a company would like to do. As Raul mentioned, like Tanto Kure on Tabletop Simulator. That's a lot of work that we don't necessarily have the opportunity to do right now. Especially because we're focused on Alternate Souls coming out, or not coming out, but coming to Kickstarter in 4 days. But the stuff we want to do, there's options that we want to take with getting you more digital opportunities to play our games and spend time with us. So keep an eye out on streams, keep an eye out for more of these AMA-style things. We're going to do more of those. We play Heart of Crown online as well. Usually it's with our friends over at Deepwater Games or artists we love in the community or other designers. We had Ross from the Op, so USAopoly, who's an amazing human being. We had him on to play some Heart of Crown and just hang out and drink some adult beverages and relax. So, thank you all so much. I really appreciate your time again. Tabletop Simulator is a difficult discussion right now, mostly due to copyright laws and things that involve it. So, that's not something that I can talk about deeply, because copyright is a big old pain. But again, thank you all so much. Thank you for spending your time with me. I really appreciate it. Reach out anytime. In the same way, we might not have the answers to your questions, but if so, we're going to tell you that. Kickstarter is going to be a shorter one. It's going to be a little over 2 weeks, similar to all of our other Kickstarters. So if you've done a Kickstarter with us before, we typically stick to a shorter cycle. But again, thank you for all the love. Much love to all of you. Take care out there. Be safe, and best of luck and skill to every one of you. And until we speak next time, stay safe out there.